You wake up with that familiar tension in your chest. Not panic, just pressure. You tell yourself, I'll start after breakfast, then after coffee, then after this one scroll, and somehow it's already dark again. It's not that you don't care. You do, almost too much. You think about everything you need to do until the thinking itself becomes the work. You replay imaginary conversations, analyze every possible outcome, build the plan in your head 100 times, and still can't move. You can see the version of you that gets things done. You just can't reach them. You know what to do, but you can't make yourself do it. At work, it shows up quietly. You make lists you never touch. You keep tabs open until they blur together. You read the same email 3 times, too anxious to reply, but too guilty to close it. Every urgent notification feels like a test you've already failed. So you go back to scrolling, not because you want to, but because it's the only thing that doesn't judge you for staying still. Psychology calls this the freeze response. It's like your brain is on, but your body won't listen. You're not lazy, you're stuck in protective paralysis. Your nervous system is pressing both the gas and the brakes at the same time. You want to move, but your body learned that action can equal danger. That effort might still end in disappointment. It's the same wiring that once kept you safe when mistakes had consequences. Now it just keeps you small. You think about everyone else, the people who seem to live on fast forward. You're tired of watching them move ahead while you can't even start. They post about new jobs, relationships, travels. You tell yourself you're happy for them, but every post feels like a reminder that your life is buffering. You start comparing, even though you know it never helps. They look like they're living. You feel like you're existing. Over time, this shapes something deeper, internalized worthlessness. You stop asking, what do I want? And start asking, what's wrong with me? You forget that timelines are made up, that no one's keeping score. You tell yourself, I'm not doing enough, but the truth is, you're tired from carrying the pressure of catching up to a life that isn't yours. The irony is, the people you compare yourself to are doing the same thing, measuring themselves against someone else's highlight reel, feeling the same quiet panic. Everyone's chasing each other's edited version of enough, forgetting what they actually want. But you can break the spiral. When you feel it, don't translate it into shame. Translate it into direction. What about their life makes you wish for motion in yours? Use that as a signal, not a sentence. And the moment you stop tracking your worth against someone else's timeline, the noise quiets enough for you to finally hear your own. You used to think being smart or self-aware would help you fix this, but it almost makes it worse, because you can see every problem clearly, and you still can't stop repeating it. It's a strange kind of exhaustion, not the kind you sleep off, more like mental jet lag between who you are and who you're supposed to be by now. You feel behind but can't catch up because catching up requires motion, and motion feels like stepping into a storm you can't see. The freeze becomes your routine. You convince yourself you're resting or planning. You wait for motivation to appear like a signal from somewhere else. But it doesn't, because motivation doesn't lead to movement. Movement leads to motivation. You didn't always overthink every step. It built quietly. Maybe it started with a small comment, someone rolling their eyes when you got something wrong, a teacher saying, "You're better than this," a parent going silent when you disappointed them. Nothing dramatic, just enough to make your body remember. Trying and failing hurts. So you started avoiding the feeling. You studied longer, checked everything twice, waited until you were sure. You started believing that doing something perfectly was the only way to stay safe. That's how perfectionism starts, not from wanting to be the best, but from being scared of what happens if you're not. Psychologists call this anticipatory anxiety, your brain running through every possible mistake before you even begin. It's trying to protect you, but it ends up exhausting you. And after years of living like that, the fear starts to sound reasonable. You call it being careful. You call it standards. but it's really just fear with good manners. Freud described this as the ego caught between two voices. One voice, the part of you that wants to live freely, make mistakes, explore, says, just try. Freud called it the it. The other, and the inner critic built from years of judgment, he says, don't embarrass yourself. It's the super ego. You get stuck in the middle, trapped between the need to grow and the need to stay safe. So you freeze. You don't move, not because you don't want to, but because both parts of you are fighting for control. And here's what happens over time. When your brain links effort with shame, it starts assuming that no matter what you do, it'll go wrong. This is called learned helplessness. You stop believing that effort changes anything, so you do less, not because you've given up, but because your body's protecting you from disappointment. You tell yourself, I'll start when I'm ready. But readiness never comes, because the feeling you're waiting for only shows up after you act. And deep down, you know that. You've seen other people make mistakes and keep going, and you envy how light they seem. They fail, they laugh, they move on. And you're still stuck, waiting to feel safe enough to begin. You grew up believing that control would protect you, that if you could predict everything, you could avoid pain. The danger's gone now, but your body doesn't know that yet. It's still guarding you from things that can't hurt you anymore. You're not scared of the work. You're scared of the feeling that comes with getting it wrong. And until you start showing yourself that mistakes don't equal rejection anymore, your mind will keep pausing before every move, not to stop you, but to make sure you survive. The harder you push yourself, the heavier it gets. You can't explain it to anyone because it sounds ridiculous. I want to move. I just can't. You sit down to start, and it's like your brain short circuits. You're thinking about 10 things at once. What could go wrong? What people might think? How far behind you already are? That's cognitive overload, the mind jammed with so many predictions that there's no space left for movement. You burn energy imagining outcomes instead of creating them. That's why even simple things, sending a message, washing a cup, feel like heavy lifting. Then comes the cycle. You procrastinate, feel guilty, promise to do better, and when the next task appears, the guilt itself becomes the trigger. This is called avoidance reinforcement. Every time you skip the discomfort, your brain rewards you with brief relief. It learns that not doing equals safety, so the pause becomes automatic. None of this means you're broken. It just means your body's still running an old program. The good news is that bodies can unlearn. You don't need motivation. You need proof. Tiny proof that movement doesn't equal danger anymore. Opening the laptop, typing one line, hitting send on something imperfect. Each act teaches your system a new outcome. We moved and we're still safe. That's how control slowly shifts back to you. Not through pressure or pep talks, but through quiet repetition of a different kind. One small action at a time until motion feels normal again. You go through your day on autopilot. You speak, work, reply, smile, but it all feels slightly off, like you're performing your own life. That's what psychology calls the observer self, when the mind steps back instead of showing up. It's not that you want to be detached. Your brain just learned to watch instead of participate. It's a kind of depersonalization, a quiet split between doing and feeling. You know it's happening while it's happening. You catch yourself thinking, I should feel more right now. That's where the guilt begins. You feel guilty for being numb, guilty for not reacting, guilty for drifting through moments that should mean something. And the more you notice it, the heavier it gets. Guilt layered over emptiness. People tell you to be present, but they don't understand that presence isn't a switch. You can't force emotion back just because you miss it. You've spent years turning feelings down so you could function. Turning them back up takes time. You don't heal by forcing yourself to change. You heal by learning how to move again, slowly and without punishment. This part isn't about productivity. It's about learning how to live without treating every step like a test. Here are some easy tips that might help you. 1. Self-compassion before speed. Guilt doesn't motivate you, it just keeps your body in alarm mode. When you talk to yourself like an enemy, your brain reads it as danger and freezes again. Guilt raises cortisol. Shame keeps you still. What helps is grace, giving yourself the tone you'd use with someone you care about. You don't need to be motivated right now. You need to stop fighting yourself long enough to move an inch. That's what real self-compassion is. Lowering the noise so motion can start. 2. Reconnect body before goals. Most people wait until they feel ready, but readiness comes after motion, not before. Forget the big plan. Start with your body. Move first, meaning comes later. Open the file. Wash the cup. Write one messy line. The brain learns stability through completion, not perfection. Behavioral psychology calls this activation, proving through action that the threat has passed. When your mind spirals, shrink the task again. 2 minutes only, then stop. Small proof beats big promises. Do it imperfectly today so it's easier to do again tomorrow. 3. Soothe the inner critic. Stop trying to control every variable. Not everything broken needs you to fix it. Your make it perfect voice is just a habit. Loud, certain, and always on. Name it. Separate it. When it starts with, "Don't do that, you'll look stupid," answer with facts. One small step, then review. High standards are fine. Pair them with high grace. Play the point hard, then let the point go. Your job isn't to silence the critic forever. It's to stop letting it drive today's decision. 4. Let go of the control illusion. You can't plan your way into certainty. You can only pick a direction and meet what happens there. Trying to predict every outcome is just another way of staying frozen. Progress isn't about control, it's about psychological flexibility. Doing the next thing even while you're unsure. Courage isn't confidence, it's motion in the middle of doubt. 5. Reframe failure as redirection. Every outcome is data, not a verdict. Swap "I failed" for "that taught me something." Your nervous system misreads discomfort as danger, so it stops you from learning. Freud would say your mind is trying to finish an old story, one where failure once meant rejection. Each new attempt gives you a chance to change the ending. You're not repeating the past, you're rewriting it. 6. Let curiosity lead. Fear asks, "What if it goes wrong?" Curiosity asks, "What happens if I try?" That tiny shift lowers anxiety and turns threat into exploration. You don't have to know the full path. You just have to care enough to look around the corner. Curiosity is movement's first language, gentle, open, and alive. You don't climb out of paralysis all at once. You do it by choosing motion over management, again and again, until your body starts believing it's allowed to move. Not because everything is perfect, but because you finally stop waiting for it to be. The goal was never to become fearless. It was to stop letting fear decide what your life looks like.